right, folks, we got a ton of stuff to cover today, so no screwing around. All right, maybe a little screwing around. Looking at the sun in 193 angstroms, we see 0 sunspots. Coronal hole systems are rotating out of the Earth-facing region. I would note that the North Pole coronal hole is looking huge, large, and in charge. Not really in charge, but large nonetheless. Here's the 171 angstroms view. And we're only looking at about 9 hours of solar activity here. 8.5 hours, something like that. Very low levels of solar activity. And let's talk about the coronal mass ejection, which could be hitting right now, actually. Now, we covered it before it actually even happened. And I guess NOAA and NASA are not aware of it yet for some reason. Maybe they don't watch our channel. But there it is. This is the view from Stereo A, located a few months behind the Earth in terms of orbital. And there's a coronal mass ejection. It is absolutely Earth-facing. And it could already be here, actually. It's a pretty high-speed one. I'll let that play through for you. It's a Stereo A coronagraph. There are links to this site if you want to monitor this stuff yourself. This particular one is on page 7. And we're not going to get into a tutorial on how to operate this software today. Here is the ultra-obvious halo that you can see on the LASCO C3 coronagraph. You can see the halo coming out on all sides, indicating that that coronal mass ejection was absolutely Earth-facing. How they missed it, I have no idea, but I just got an alert this morning saying there are no Earth-facing coronal mass ejections. It couldn't be more obvious to me. So please sponsor our channel instead of sponsoring a NOAA, as a better use of your dollars is to donate to us instead of paying your taxes. I'm not suggesting you shouldn't pay your taxes, folks. Don't try to sue me if you go to jail for tax evasion. They're doing a pathetic job, by the way. Anyway, the X-ray flux is utterly flatlined. And let's move on to the real-time solar wind. And we just saw an uptick. The phi angle shifted wildly. This could be the coronal mass ejection hitting. It's not a large coronal mass ejection, but it did look like it was at a high speed, which is why it could already be here, folks. And anyway, there's the small uptick. You see a little uptick there to 8.5, and you see the scale has actually popped up to 100 there. Let's look at the 2-hour plot, since that just happened while we did show prep. And you don't see any big spikes there. So anyway, the scale's moved. Let's go back to the 1-day data. So you see the phi angle is shifting around. I'm not going to cite a phi angle there. That's no signal, really. Current solar wind density, 8.31 protons per cubic centimeter. Solar wind speed, 341 kilometers a second. And if we don't see an uptick real soon in the speed, that is not the coronal mass ejection hitting. Anyway, let's move on. Here's the ACE data. And it's looking pretty corroborative. Now the current signature of this looks more like a coronal hole wind stream impact, as we don't see a simultaneous uptick in the velocity. In fact, it looks like the velocity actually went down over the past short period of time. So that's something to look at throughout the day. Here's the Geospace Magnetosphere movie, looking at 4 hours of data. Magnetohydrodynamic pressure. And you're going to see right at the end a small uptick in the solar wind density, represented here by higher pressure, especially in the bow shock region. And there's that small uptick. Actually, the main pressure turned out in the magnetotail there. So anyway, moving on to ground geospace magnetic perturbations, of which we don't see very much. I'll just let it play through at normal speed and not be impatient. And there you see a little bit of induced current as a result of the proton bombardment. 10.7 centimeter radial flux is at 69. Or is it 70? I can't remember. I think it's at 70. Spaceweather.com showing it to be at 70. So we are still at low activity, folks, but not as low as it's been. And there's the GOES magnetometer. There is a bit of a magnetic tug-of-war going on. Let's have a look at the Gong 2. And there's the Gong 2 data. This data 1 hour, 48 minutes old. Keep in mind the magnetic environment can change with absolutely no warning. And let's go to the final frame, as it looked like yesterday we were going to be in the North Pole-oriented portion of the current sheet. And now I'm not so sure. Looks like a definite South Pole-oriented portion of the current sheet. Expect to see continued spikiness in the magnetometer, as this situation is not settled. KP is at 0 for the past 6 hours. And we're not going to cover cosmic rays today. However, there are links to this site with a bunch of stations. We usually look at Apatity, Athens, Barentsburg, Oulu, 2 Antarctican monitors, Moscow, Mexico City. Here's the GOES electron flux, and it's looking pretty normal here. Nothing to really write home about there. And the relativistic electrons are looking pretty chilled. Pretty much just a normal operating range there. Let me take a moment to talk about solar cycles. Welcome to cycle 25, folks. And here's the projection from solon.info. Now just keep in mind this hasn't been updated for a while, and we are waiting for the next update for this. And if you want to learn about solar cycles more in depth, we're going to link to a PDF document in just a moment. I just want to inform everybody that the solar polar fields are what actually determine the real points of the solar cycles, such as the solar polar magnetic field reversals and so on. And here's the article we're talking about. It's entitled Solar Polar Fields and Nobuyana 17 gigahertz emissions. So have a read on that if you want to learn more about the way the solar polar fields work and so on. An interesting PDF, especially for watchers of our channel. And thanks, viewers, for doing so. Next, we'll look at the ionosphere, the earthly one, that is. And it's just looking a little bit discharged overall here. No real surprises there. Here's the latest image. That one from 9:15 UT. Next, we'll do an earthquake rundown. We're going to look at everything over a 4 magnitude, which is why we're not going to mention this 3.4 at Ventura, California, except to say it's a thing. So the first on the list came in at 1307 yesterday. It's a 5.0 in the southern mid-Atlantic ridge. Next, we see a 4.8 in the central East Pacific rise, a 4.6 at Italy. Please leave a comment if you felt that quake, or if you're an Italian viewer, period. How about a 4.3 at Iran? Here we see a deep quake at Chile, and that right there is about my favorite spot for the ending of this 7 magnitude earthquake drought, which has been going on for an extended period, folks. Extended period of 7 magnitude earthquake lack. It's a lack thereof. 7 magnitude quakes. Next on the list is a 4.9, occurring shallow in the Aleutian chain there, out off the coast of mainland Alaska. Next is a 5.4 at the South Indian Ocean. That one coming in at 2224 UT. Next we see a 5.0 at nearly 100 kilometers at the Philippines. as we saw a big uptick of earthquakes there. Largest quake in a long time here in the Middle East. We see a 5.9 in Iran. I would expect that to have caused some damage. Please leave a comment if you're able to see our videos in Iran. Somehow, I doubt it. How about a 4.7? Did you hear me click it 3 times, folks? Yeah, I clicked it 3 times. If you use the USGS earthquake site, it'll make you want to rip your hair out. If you're not already bald. Anyway, that's another Aleutian Islands quake. Next we see a 4.4 in Croatia. Not too far from that Italian quake. That one at a 4.4 magnitude. Next we see a 5.2 at the Philippines, a 5.2 at Papua New Guinea. 4.9 coming in as we did show prep. As I bear down on the mouse button over and over again to achieve 1 click. That one coming in at 316 kilometers depth. And lastly, a 4.6 at Venezuela. Apparently socialism doesn't prevent earthquakes. And here we've got the pressure maps on windy.com. We'll just let that advance if I can click the button. There we go. And we'll let that advance about 24 hours to give you some idea of where pressure systems are expected to be located. We're expecting some frigid air to be hitting the entire eastern half of the U.S. We'll cover it in a minute, so don't go anywhere. First, we're going to do a volcano rundown. And here's the list. Mount Aso, producing a 6,000-foot ash plume. Sakurajima, 9,000-foot ash plume. Mount Manam, 15,000-foot ash plume there as it explodes. Sanjiangapi doing the same thing, producing a 10,000-foot ash plume, though. Mount Takono exploding, 7,000-foot plume there. Revenador, volcanic ash observed in satellite. Sabancaya, exploding, producing a 24,000-foot ash plume. Copahu, continuous ash emissions. Not sure about Nevados de Chilean. Don't set up a campsite on the slopes. Are you aware that there's going to be a transit of Mercury on the 11th? Do you have a solar telescope? Do you have a telescope with a solar filter? Well, if so, please take some images for us. We've left links to this Universe Today article. It's a great article about the transit, where it's going to be viewed from, ideas on how to project the transit, as it'll look like a sunspot, but it'll be moving quite rapidly. Yeah, make some eclipse, get some eclipse glasses out, put them on binoculars, figure out a way to stare at the sun. Just use the proper filters. It's good times. Are you aware that space dust is ionized? Well, NASA's been creating a coating to prevent moon dust from sticking to astronauts' equipment. Now, those of us who understand electric universe stuff are fully aware that the dust on the sun-facing side of the moon has a net positive charge, and dust on the non-sun-facing side of the moon has a net negative charge. And like most space dust, it will stick to your gear. And since it's made out of glass, largely, you don't really want that all over your stuff when you get back into the spacecraft and you launch again. Now there's no gravity, or there's microgravity, we call it. And the dust is going to be all over the place, possibly getting in your instruments. A little bit worse than a bag of Doritos, which you're also not allowed to bring into space, would be moon dust floating all around inside the, in the instrument panels, and you could be breathing it in. That's not particularly healthy. It could get in your eyes, etc. So NASA's making a coating about it, and it's going to be anyway. There's a mission planned in 2024 to head back to the moon for some reason, and we need coatings. Here's where stuff is in the solar system. There's where it'll be in 3 days. That's the transit of Mercury, by the way. There's where stuff will be in 1 week. Milky Way Galaxy team for the win. Please leave a comment if you're viewing our video from a different plane of existence, multiverse, universe, spacecraft, planet, comet, galaxy, or solar system. I think I covered most bases there, right? And here's where stuff is above my head. As I'm usually interested in that stuff, I like to draw on the ecliptic. Check out in-the-sky.org. Make yourself a sky chart. Go out and check out Orion's belt. It's quite delightful. If it's dark where you are. Check out the ice eggs that rolled up near Oulu, Finland. Probably our favorite cosmic ray station is Oulu, Finland. And check out the ice eggs. Pretty good. And thanks for submitting the article to that viewer. I won't call you out by name. Please leave a comment. Anyway, this happened in the Gulf of Bothnia, not to be confused with Bosnia. Somebody with a lisp from Bothnia named the Gulf of Bothnia. They probably failed from Bothnia to get to Bothnia. Anyway, here's some ice balls in Russia too. So please leave a comment if you think this woman interfered with the election from Siberia. Here's a lightning map, courtesy lightningmaps.org. And there's some lightning. Anyway, there's where it is. Next time you hear thunder, perhaps check out lightningmaps.org. It could make your day a little safer. And here's a U.S. Doppler radar. Looks like we're getting some snow in Pennsylvania. Son of a beehive. Central PA looks like around State College. It's quite mountainous in that region of Pennsylvania. Although it might not be snowing at all because that is a very stagnant looking signal there, I wouldn't be surprised if there's no snow falling there. As Doppler radar must be tuned just right to be able to detect the precipitation making it all the way to the ground, as these things measure movement, vertical movement in the atmosphere. And let's move on to tropical tidbits, talking about temperature anomalies. And you want to see some temperature anomalies, check it out. Texas expected to be frozen today with temperatures at 12 to 14 degrees Celsius below normal. Check it out. Let's watch this advance as the cold pulses are going to hit me over and over again. And that cold pulse there, you are looking at 20 degrees Celsius below normal for the entire state of Ohio. If your crops are not harvested by then, they're going to be frozen solid, and your plants will be nice and dead. Unless they're legit cold weather plants. Let's look at the U.S. Water vapor map. As the jet stream is pressing frigid air all the way down to Texas, it's going to be all the way into the Gulf of Mexico, and it's going to be cold, 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 folks. That cold is not caused by CO2. Just like the heat is not caused by CO2. Can we please get science out of this rut where some people seem to still believe that carbon dioxide is the climate control knob? It's complete nonsense. And today I'm going to zoom in to see what's going on above my head, and what's going on above my head is a plethora of protons. Check out those parallel lines, folks. Those are caused by Hall currents. If you don't know what Hall currents are, just do a web search, preferably on duckduckgo.com, for Birkeland currents, and you learn all about Hall currents. Hall currents are the 90-degree perpendicular currents that come out of electrical current flow, or you could say magnetic fields, as they're essentially the same thing. And let's don't get into a whole electrical engineering lesson here, but anyway, there's what's going on above my head, and man, it's looking like it's going to be cold, windy, and clear as that dry mass of air pushes through. And we got to speed things up here as there's still a lot of stuff to cover, tons of articles. We're looking for once at the 10 hectopascal view here from Null School. We're looking at Antarctica, the southern geographic pole, to see what the counter rotation's doing. And it is not in full swing yet, and neither is it in the northern hemisphere, but there is a massive anticyclone generated by this. And there's the view from the North Geographic Pole. And there's that massive anticyclone, which does go all the way down to the surface, by the way, and it's located over the central Atlantic. Here's the jet stream view of the same area. And let's just look at the normal views for the jet stream that our viewers are used to. There's a view of the western world on the equatorial view. Meridional jet stream flow at its finest, injecting cold air way down south. And here are the eastern jets. Again, stay tuned, folks. There's still tons of stuff to cover, and it's pretty interesting. Sometimes there's too many articles. We were going to make 2 videos, but rather than separate that is censored and that is a sinkhole section, where we attempt to help people differentiate between their you-know-what and a hole in the ground, we cover various articles. By the way, if you enjoy the content, please press like and subscribe on YouTube. Perhaps share with your local science nerd or astronomy club or whatever, as we're trying to help to achieve a unified theory of physics. Do you follow us on Instagram? We've branded it to look just like the YouTube channel. And, well, yesterday was Throwback Thursday. And I threw it way back to the year 1976, probably there. Perhaps 77. I'm not sure. Something like that.
Is doing more to break the internet than any other company.
Were you aware that YouTube and Google pay us absolutely nothing for these videos, and they show you ads anyway? Were you aware that we're on Twitter? I don't tweet, but we're there to make it easier to share stuff. We're also on Gab. I would consider using it. Although, perhaps this winter I will get into gabbing. We're also on Minds, minds.com/smAsho. We've branded that to look like everything else too. You may find some exclusive content there. It's the future of social media. Anyway, please fund the channel. And thanks to our newest patron, please support the channel via Patreon, as we need a lot more funding to go full-time, and it is in the works. The nonprofit organization is going to happen. So stay tuned for that. Hopefully we will be able to do it by the end of the year if we can raise enough funds. We've got to replace quite a bit more money per month here. So again, check out patreon.com/smAshomash. You will get the first updates of anybody in the world. Nobody else in the world is doing the kind of videos we are, folks. So that's part of the reason why these videos exist, as this is the data that I look at every day, and I decided to share it with everybody, mainly for friends and family, and also so I can view it myself on the large screen, as I'm not only smAsho, but I'm also a client. There's a record-setting X-ray burst recently measured from the space station's it's NICER, the Neutron Star Interior Composition Explorer. And anyway, we've left links to this article as well below the video, so check that out if you like. A big X-ray burst. And also, if you'd like to follow this particular object with the catchy title SAXJ1808.4-3658, here are the transients from it. And we've left links to the Neil Gorell Swift Observatory also. The Burst Alert Telescope, folks. You can probably follow your favorite transients there, and if you want to find that one, just look for J1808. And while there are 3 of them, the one that we're talking about here is the one that ends in 3658. So anyway, moving on to the bonus features, of which there are quite a few. Now, yesterday we talked about doppelgangers, and then we linked you to a video where I experienced this phenomenon in the woods, which later turned into a wraith. And while this thing didn't appear to be undead, it didn't even move. It stayed perfectly still. The first time I saw it, it looked exactly like my riding partner and cycling mentor. Shout out Ron Wexler. It looked exactly like him, imitating his gear, and you know, I saw his helmet, I saw his glasses, and I saw his jersey on the side of the trail. Every time after that, I only saw a black silhouette. Please leave a comment if you know what a saving throw is. Looks like I must have made mine. And no, you cannot know what the stats on my character sheet are. Those are secret. We're going to talk about stats on character sheets, but let's first talk about Sunburst arc doppelgangers. And you want to talk about some gravitational lensing, or some kind of lensing. Please leave a comment if you have a theory as to whether this is caused by gravity or not. Now, standard astronomy will tell you that this is caused by the gravitational field warping the fabric of space itself. Let me show you a quick clip here of 8 seconds or less. Fair use. Anyway, there's the lensing that we see there, and talk about some weird stuff going on. Anyway, read the article, as lensing is super important into cosmology, as there are, let's just say there are various theories of everything. And please leave a comment as to where you line up on how the lensing, what the physics behind the lensing is, as it is one of the most significant mysteries in astronomy. And let's talk black holes. A lot of people are very scared about CERN opening one, and I find it laughable. Here's an article where Haley Zaremba seems to be very concerned about them also. We're not going to really say anything else other than we've linked to the article. People are very scared that CERN's going to open a black hole. Well, I'm here to tell you, don't worry about it. They don't exist. Black holes are a bunch of math in search of observations. Sorry, classical astronomy. Here's an important quote from Dr. Robitaille. This is Dr. Pierre-Marie Robitaille, Doctor of Radiology at Ohio State University. Listen to this quote. Take it away, Dr. Robitaille. Seriously, take it away.
That in order to accept the existence of black holes, one must first deny the presence of a real solar surface.
In other words, solid objects like the sun cannot self-compress. They can't do work on themselves, and black holes are not real. So watch the video as Robitaille analyzes the claim of the black hole image, Galaxy M87. Here's another quote from Robitaille.
Acting as an ideal gas. By denying the solar surface, which highlights incompressibility, astrophysics can advance fully compressible objects. Modern astrophysics.
There's a problem with the cosmological toolbox, folks, and we're trying to help people to understand that so that we can get the correct tools in the toolbox and understand cosmology for real. Now, I think self-driving cars are stupid, and I think Uber is also stupid. And I wouldn't set foot in an Uber if you paid me to do it. And if it was a self-driving car, I wouldn't even want to be on the road with the thing. Guess why? Because Uber killed somebody with their crappy and stupid idea self-driving car. And to make things worse, check out this nonsense. Now, Uber's code, the program algorithm, is what caused this to happen. Check this out. Uber has been cleared of liability for the crash, but police are still considering charges against the safety driver who wasn't paying attention when somebody jaywalked and the car killed them. Now, how could Uber possibly have escaped liability in this when they changed the algorithm and claimed that it would have detected Hertzberg 289 feet before the impact and braked 4 seconds before the impact? What a joke. Self-driving cars and Uber are uber stupid. And I don't know how they escaped liability on this. They should be charged for a wrongful death lawsuit for the jaywalker, as jaywalking is not a crime punishable by death yet. Here's another extreme tech article. Were you aware that police in Florida have gained full access to a DNA database, even if you've opted out? Check this out. Users had to opt in to law enforcement access. I don't know why anybody would do that. I guess they don't believe in the Fourth Amendment, which only 185,000 of the site's 1.3 million users did. Now, this is GED match. So if you've got your DNA in GED match, guess what? Florida can analyze it. How do you like that? Even if you had absolutely nothing to do with the crime that they're investigating, they can still access your information. So personally, I think you have to have your head examined. If you submit your DNA to these companies, I think it's complete insanity. Moving on. Links to these articles also below the video. And we've brought it back. We brought it back to the local yellow dwarf again. We're looking at 94 angstroms here. Here's the North Pole area. There is a sprite there. You can see it underneath my pointer right there. And here's the South Pole region. We are out. We got to get the video up, folks. Thanks again for tuning in. Again, please support us on Patreon and be a gold member and be the first to know about gripping matters. Stare at the sun. Don't drink. And if you drink, don't drive. Really, seriously, don't drive. Do forward rolls, walk, do cartwheels, ride a skateboard. Just don't drive. It sucks. And since it'll never be now again, may that solar wind be at your back and that atherosclerosis absent from your veins.